Now it is my distinct pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker. I met Nawar Shora when I became president here at Marshall. He spoke at freshman convocation that first year, and he had a very powerful message. I knew we needed to ask him back to be our commencement speaker someday in the future. Nawar was born in Syria, but raised here in Huntington. He served as student body president at Marshall and graduated with a broadcast journalism degree. Nawar went on to law school and devoted his career to helping Americans from all backgrounds understand each other better, with a particular focus on Arab Americans and Muslims. After law school, he started out as a legal advisor for the American Anti-Discrimination Committee, where he helped build diverse coalitions in the aftermath of 9/11. And he served as an expert in counterterrorism, religion, and culture. You can read the details of all of his career highlights in the program. But then he went on to become a senior advisor at the Transportation Security Administration and the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, where he is an expert on violent extremism, radicalization, and terrorism. Nawar has appeared as an expert source in the national and international media, including on CNN, Fox News, CBS, ABC, Al Jazeera, and National Public Radio, and in the Washington Post and the Associated Press. I think that's a pretty impressive list. He has received a number of awards for his service, and in 2008, he wrote and published the Arab American Handbook, a guide to the Arab American, and Muslim worlds, which is widely used by law enforcement organizations and companies around the world. I remember hearing Nawar talk previously at freshman convocation about his experiences as a child. Because he was an Arab American, when he first moved here to Huntington, he experienced a lot of difficulties. He used those experiences to fuel his desire to make a difference. He decided to strive for good in the world. And I would say that, Nawar, you've definitely succeeded. I'm proud to call you a true son of Marshall. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the podium our guest speaker, my friend, Mr. Nawar Shora.
I'm short. Good morning, everybody. This is, oh, too low. Not that short. Apologies. Good morning, everybody. Dr. Gilbert, Board of Governors, faculty members, Faculty Senate, thank you for this honor. I am beyond floored to be here before you. I have failed, thank you for mentioning my achievements, sir, but I have failed more times than I can recount. Literally more times than I can recount. But it doesn't matter once you get that one win, once you get that success. That then diffuses your failures. Doesn't erase them, doesn't make them go away, but it diffuses them. 2 years ago, when I spoke at the freshman convocation, my theme was do. Perhaps not surprisingly, my theme today at commencement is do more. But to get to that, let's get in the Civic Center time machine and go back to where the story began. I was born in Damascus, Syria, 41 years ago. I immigrated here to Huntington 31 years ago. And as a short, fat, hairy, Arab Muslim kid, let that sink in, right? In small town West Virginia, the first few years were rough. That is true. I was bullied, I was picked on, I was called names, I was sucker punched and literally knocked out, I was pushed into bathroom urinals. I have tons of stories I've just kept usually from my therapist, so you guys are all serving as that right now. But there's always a fork in the road, and I had all this anger within me. Any Star Wars fans here yesterday? Yesterday was Star Wars Day, right? May the 4th. So right, yeah. So as with the Force, there's the dark side of the Force, and there's the light side, and that is that fork in the road. And I chose to be inspired versus get angry. So having made a few friends, I decided to run for freshman class president in high school. I got decimated, lost, and to add insult to injury, during the petition for students to sign support, I was called names like Osama bin Laden, Saddam Hussein, all sorts of things, right? But again, I persisted. I thought, well, I'm not going to let that keep me down. I ran again for 10th grade class president. This time, by some miracle, I won. That confidence grew. People started noticing. It was small things, but it made the paper. It was, now we take for granted recycling programs. Everything is recycled, right? Back in the late 80s, early 90s, I started a recycling program at my high school. I made the Herald Dispatch for starting a recycling program, but it's these little things. I started something called the Adopt a Hallway program, taken from the Adopt a Highway program. Little things, but people noticed. I noticed. I started to believe in myself more. Activism. I decided to be more active. Again, Star Wars, Master Yoda, right? Do or do not, there is no try. Decide on doing something, I'd say do more. Again, that's my theme. Fall 7 times, stand up 8. Fall 8 times, stand up 9, and the numbers keep increasing. As with the story of Marshall, from the ashes of tragedy, we rise to the glory of champions. The saying goes, the meaning of life is to find your gift. The purpose is to give it away. Hopefully for each of you, over the past 3, 4, 5 years, however many years it took you, you found that purpose. And now, this next chapter beginning, go out and figure it out and give it away and grow from it. This is merely the end point of the same chapter from a few hours ago. And yes, I say hours, not years, because I've realized it actually does go by that quickly. Dreams. People say follow your dreams, conquer your dreams. I say no. No. Bear with me here. A dream is just a seed. And if I have a seed in my hand, and I love it, and I hold it, and I wish it, and I want it to become something, but it's just sitting in my hand, nothing will come of it. If anything, it's just going to die in my hand. But if I toil and plant it, and love it, and water it, and anguish, and struggle, and be patient, then it can grow to become a mighty oak. A dream without a plan, without action, is just a wish. So I say, sure, fall asleep dreaming, wanting those to happen, but don't conquer your dreams. Conquer your reality. I'm reminded of one of my mentors, the Arab-American poet Khalil Gibran, who in 1926 in Boston wrote some words of wisdom that he entitled, "To Young Americans of Syrian Origin, I Believe in You." But his words of wisdom apply to both you and I today and from this moment on, and I promise you it's words that I remember on a daily, if not weekly basis. I believe that it is in you to be a good citizen. And what is it to be a good citizen? It is to acknowledge the other person's rights before asserting your own, but always being conscious of your own. It is to be free in word and deed, but it is also to know that your freedom is subject to the other person's freedom. It is to produce by labor and only by labor, and to spend less than you have produced so that your children may not be dependent upon the state. when you are no more. It is to stand before the towers of New York and Chicago and San Francisco and Washington, saying in your hearts, I am the descendant of a people that builded Damascus and Tyre and Sidon and Antioch, and I am here to build with you and with a will. Ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you here today to reiterate, to promise, I am here to build with you and with a will. Seek adventure. Search for meaning. Don't think you graduated and now, all right, I've had my fun, played around a bit, experimented, figured things out. No, trust me, right? Keep questioning everything. Keep seeking knowledge. Keep seeking adventure. Keep making mistakes. Keep failing. Fail more. Fail better. I keep failing. But then again, there's usually a win that comes after that at some point. Persistence is key. I actually wrote down a number of my failures, and I figured I'd spare you so you actually believe me how many times I failed, whether it was with MGM or with the FBI or Enron. You guys remember Enron, right? Yeah, so I was part, I mean, that was in part, fortunately I was not part of that one. Even when writing my book, I was rejected for over a year, rejected multiple times by publishers. Sorry, you've never been published before, we're not going to publish you. Well, nobody will publish me because I don't have an agent. No agent wants me because I haven't been published before. It's a vicious circle. You can't get an agent because you haven't been published. You haven't been published because you don't have an agent. And finally, I had somebody willing to gamble on me. Let's jump back in the time machine, move forward a few years, law school, up to 9/11. I was an A, maybe A-B student here at Marshall. I worked hard. A was good, B was bad. That was my stance. I was proud of that. Graduated in 3 years. I was very proud of that. Law school. Straight C's first semester. Yeah, I was like, what's this weird squiggly mark? What's that mean? I failed out of law school. I stand before you today as your commencement speaker to share with you that I failed out of law school. They said sit out a semester. I said, forget it. I'll sit out a whole year. Yeah, right? But I came back, fall 7 times, stand up 8. I came back, figured out myself better, figured out how to be a better law student. But even within that storyline, whether it was consulting firms that wanted me to drop out of law school to hire me, who later took away offers, whether it was living on my brother's couch for over 6 months as an unemployed attorney, where all I would do every day is wake up, get on whatever it was back then. I think Monster was the only website, applying for jobs, and I kid you not, as fuel, I kept every single one of those rejection letters. I threw them away last year because my fiance is OCD and she made me do it. But I kept those as fuel to say, you are not willing to bet on me, but somebody will, and somebody will reap that benefit. "9/11. Some of you are too young to maybe even remember that. But that was a moment of change for me as a son of Marshall, as a Huntingtonian, as a proud American who happens to be of Arab extraction, who happens to be Muslim. Almost immediately, everything changed. I went from focusing on cyber law in law school. This is during the dot-com era. I was going to go print money, right? No. 9/11 happened. Priorities changed. I joined the largest Arab American civil rights organization. I immediately started building bridges with local law enforcement, FBI, government, anybody who was, church groups, anybody who was willing to listen and say, wait, who are you people, right? What are you all about? Why do you hate us? Well, let's talk about it. I actually don't hate you, right? So all these little things, and success bred success. It mushrooms, it snowballs. My formula ever since then, and I keep it through today, and with every class of officers I teach, I say it, the goal is trust. The formula is communication plus understanding equals trust. That's what drives me every single day. I want to inject as much communication and as much understanding into my everyday surroundings, and naturally, organically, trust will bloom. I think it was Abraham Lincoln who said, I don't like that man. I think I'll go get to know him. I love that. I walk around with a Post-it note on my forehead that says, I'm an Arab, I'm a Muslim, ask me a question. I want that. Let's talk about it, right? Hey, you speak such good English. Thanks, I've been here 30 years. Right? Do more. When I was writing my book, and short of raising 2 crazy 8-year-olds, it's the hardest thing I've ever had to do was write that book. On my computer screen, my background said, do more, exclamation point. And then I had leaders that I looked up to inspire me, because we all need that fuel. I had Michael Dell, I had Larry Ellison, 2 business leaders, and I had Khalil Gibran. Today, I would say the equivalent would be Mark Zuckerberg. Here's a secret. Mark Zuckerberg is not better than you. Let that sink in. Mark Zuckerberg is not better than you. Okay? If you hear your name, if you're able, please stand up. Emily Ann Guerin. Brandon Armando Romero. Stay up, please. Stay standing for me. Jonathan Isaac Miller. Monica Lynn Zelenaskic, sorry. Matthew R. Jarvis. Keep standing. Susan K. Will. Andrew Scott Mays. Victoria Lynn Brooke. Madison Page Holmes. I don't know you. I don't know any of you. I've met Matt before, but besides that, I don't know you all. I've heard your name now. We've all heard your name now, right? And I challenge you, each of you, and I picked your names at random. You can sit down now, thank you. Are better than Mark Zuckerberg. Every single one of you is better than Mark Zuckerberg. That's nothing against him. That just shows how amazing you are. Go out there, toil, teach, invent, invest, heal, tell stories, do what is your gift, and pass it on, because I promise you the world needs more of that good. This is on Facebook Live. If we lose the feed, we'll know why, because Zuckerberg got pissed off. Final part. Let's get back on the time machine. Go forward 34 years. I've said this since he was born. My 8-year-old son, Nawar Shora, is sitting over there. I say, look for bumper stickers. Nawar Shora for president. Honestly, I wouldn't wish that on anybody, but let's say that. Why not my son? That's the beauty of our society. That's the beauty of our society. Why not any of you? You don't have to have been a political science major. You don't have to have ambition to be in politics. But that leadership to be a better person, whether as a US president or as a company owner or a teacher or a nurse or an engineer or a musician or a veteran, whatever it might be, why not you? I tell both my kids, do anything you want in your life, as long as you do it so with good in mind to help the world, because God knows we need it. Another poet that speaks to me is Walt Whitman. And my favorite quote is actually from an old movie called Dead Poets Society. But the quote is questioning life and the meaning of life. And I want to share it with you because his answer is very clear. O me, O life, of the questions of these recurring, of the endless trains of the faithless, of cities filled with the foolish, of myself forever reproaching myself, for who more foolish than I, and who more faithless? Of the eyes that vainly crave the light, of the objects mean, of the struggle ever renewed, of the poor results of all, of the plodding and the sordid crowds I see around me, of the empty and useless years of rest with the rest me intertwined. The question, O me, so sad recurring, what good amid these, O me, O life. Answer that you are here, that life exists, and identity, that the powerful play goes on, and you may write a verse. What will your verse be? If there's a single takeaway from my experience, from my perseverance, from my failing, and failing more, and failing even more, and then rising back up, it's that. Rise back up. I assure you, when I graduated college, I was on cloud 9. Little did I know all the failures that stood before me. And it's not the one you're like, oh, I see a bump in the road there. Got my eye on it. It's the train that hits you sideways that you weren't even watching for. But you get back up. Do more. And now, as sons and daughters of graduates, you have the international, and I kid you not, it's international, greeting. Every time you see somebody in our glorious white and green, you get to say, go herd. It's like just, we Muslims say salam alaikum, wa alaikum salam. Marshall, we say, go herd, go herd. Hey, it's a greeting, literally. I was in France. Go herd, go herd. Somebody just saw my hat. So it's now you're part of that. One more time for old time's sake. We are. We are. Thank you all.